Billionaire catches black maid studying in the dark. What happens next surprises everyone. What the hell are you doing here? Richard Grant's sharp voice echoed through the mansion at 3 a.m., startling the 26-year-old woman who looked up from books scattered on the polished marble floor. Tanya Harris sat with calm defiance, her flashlight illuminating pages of advanced calculus. Around her, neatly folded rags showed her shift was done. Yet here she was, studying as if the $50 million mansion were her private library. "Mr. Grant," she replied evenly. "I'm done cleaning. I was just taking a moment to study." Richard descended heavily, silk pajamas a cruel contrast to her plain uniform. At 42, he had built a real estate empire by being ruthless with those beneath him. And a maid studying in his home clearly didn't know her place. "Study?" he scoffed. "This isn't a library. I pay you to clean, not to play student." Tanya calmly closed her book, tucking away her $5 calculator. Her movements were steady, unafraid, as if she had weathered storms before. "With respect, sir, the house is spotless. Just as I always leave it." Her response enraged him further. For 6 months she had been invisible, arrive, clean, vanish. But seeing her with calculus books stirred something primitive in his mind. "Listen carefully," he said coldly. "People like you have a place. Don't pretend to be something you're not." But Tanya's eyes shifted, no anger, just a glint of something far more dangerous. "People like me," she repeated. "Interesting perspective, Mr. Grant." Unbeknownst to him, she had overheard deals, seen contracts, and quietly filed them away. "You're fired," Richard snapped. Tanya rose, dignity intact. At the door, she gave him that same unsettling smile. Ever heard the saying about not underestimating those who are always watching? Because Tanya wasn't just a maid. She was an economics graduate, summa cum laude, who had spent 6 months quietly collecting the evidence that would destroy him. The next morning, Richard awoke unsettled. Not at her insubordination, but that calm look as if she knew something he didn't. "Ridiculous," he muttered. "A maid trying to intimidate me." When his assistant Janet asked why Tanya, the company's best employee, was fired, he sneered. "She didn't know her place. Studying in my home. Unacceptable." But while Richard raged, Tanya was at the public library, organizing 6 months of evidence. Insider land contracts, bribes disguised as fees, text-fixing auctions. She had photographed everything with an old cell phone no one suspected. Her economics degree, earned while working 3 jobs, gave her the tools to unravel schemes and the discipline to plan long-term. That diploma sat tucked away in the small house she shared with her mother and sisters, symbols of sacrifice, and of what was coming. For 2 years, Tanya sent resumes to top consulting firms, only to be politely rejected as not a fit for company culture. So she shifted her strategy. If she couldn't enter through the front door, she'd slip in through the back. Taking a job as a maid in the city's wealthiest homes wasn't chance, it was calculated. When she saw Richard Grant needed one, she applied the same day. "References?" asked the supervisor. "I have something better," Tanya said with her enigmatic smile. "I need to work hard." For 6 months she stayed invisible. Arrive, clean, observe, collect. Until she had enough, and staged her own dismissal to avoid suspicion. Studying advanced calculus in the mansion wasn't carelessness, it was bait. Tanya knew Richard's Thursday routine, knew he'd return early from club dinners, and knew he'd react with arrogance. At the public library, she opened a used laptop and began compiling the most explosive dossier the city's elite had ever seen. It wasn't just corruption evidence, it was a full map of how Richard built his $50 million empire on kickbacks, insider deals, and rigged tenders. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jasmine, 16. "Tanny, did you get another job? Mom's worried about the bills." Tanya looked at the screen, then at the stacks of documents. Her mother, Barbara, worked double shifts as a nurse. Jasmine and Tricia, 18, split shifts at a diner. They deserved better. Richard was about to learn he had underestimated the wrong person. "Tell Mom not to worry," Tanya typed. "Soon everything will change." Each humiliation only hardened her resolve. While Richard boasted about disciplining an insolent maid, Tanya was methodically building his sentence. 3 weeks later, reality hit the Harris family. Tanya's last paycheck went to her mother's medication. Only $43 remained. "Tanny, did you get anything today?" Jasmine asked wearily after a double shift. "I'm still looking," Tanya lied, hiding her notebook of evidence. They wouldn't understand why she turned down other jobs. Meanwhile, Richard thrived, laughing at the golf club. "You won't believe it, I caught my maid studying calculus." Calculus, his friends roared. As if a maid could understand that. But Marcus Taylor, a young investigative journalist working as a waiter, overheard. He'd grown up in Tanya's neighborhood and now specialized in exposing corporate crime. The next morning he approached her at the library. "Sorry to bother you. I'm Marcus Taylor. I heard you used to work for Richard Grant." Tanya studied him. He wasn't just curious. "I did." "What?" "Because I've been investigating him for 2 years," Marcus said softly. "But I've never gotten close enough for solid proof. Someone who worked inside for months." Tanya realized she had found exactly what she needed. Someone with media access and the contacts to turn her evidence into consequences. "What kind of evidence do you need?" she asked, opening her notebook for the first time. ChatGPT said. Marcus' eyes widened at the meticulous records, fraudulent contracts, suspicious payments, schemes with businessmen, all cataloged by date, amount, and names. "My God," he whispered. "This could take down not just Grant, but half the city's elite." "I'm not done yet," Tanya said with that same enigmatic smile Richard once feared. "I have 3 more contacts confirming fraudulent bids at City Hall." For weeks, Tanya pretended to job hunt to reassure her family, while she and Marcus built an irrefutable dossier. Every document verified. Every transaction traced. Every participant identified. Meanwhile, Richard made his biggest mistake. In the same mansion where he once humiliated Tanya, security cameras captured him offering bribes for insider details on a housing project. The irony was sharp. The man who mocked Tanya for studying was now filmed conspiring to steal from families like hers. "We got it," Marcus said, showing her the footage. "With this and your documents, we can publish reports that will shake the entire power structure." Tanya watched the video of Richard, smugly explaining how to rig contracts. For a moment, she savored the thought of his expression when he discovered he'd been undone by the inept maid he despised. "When do we publish?" she asked. "Next Monday. Front page, online, social media. Everywhere. Impossible to suppress," Marcus replied. That night, Tanya returned home to find Barbara waiting, worry in her eyes. "My daughter, you've been different lately. What are you planning? Remember when you said one day our situation would change?" Tanya asked. "I remember. That day has come. On Monday the world will know who I really am." Barbara smiled through tears, recognizing the same determination that carried her daughter from the slums to a summa cum laude degree. "What have you done, Tanya?" "Justice, Mama. Just justice." While Richard Grant slept peacefully in his $50 million mansion, convinced he had silenced an insolent maid, Tanya Harris was perfecting the final touches on a revenge that would topple his empire of lies. Anchors dissected Richard's crimes as fact. Analysts calculated prison time, and his accounts were frozen. Then the doorbell rang. "Mr. Grant." The voice through the intercom froze his blood. "It's Tanya Harris. I'm here to return something you left behind." Air drained from his lungs. Tanya, the maid he had fired, humiliated, dismissed as incompetent. Trembling, he pressed the buzzer. 5 minutes later, she stood before him. A simple blazer, leather briefcase in hand, looking more like a lawyer than a maid. "I came to deliver this personally," Tanya said, setting the newspaper with his face on the front page onto his desk. "Thought you'd like an autographed copy." Richard stared, shaken by her transformation, her upright posture, steady eyes, confidence radiating. "It was me," she whispered. 6 months of watching. Every time you left documents scattered, believing a maid couldn't understand contracts or laundering. Reality hit like a tsunami. Her degree, economics. Summa cum laude. State University. Tanya smiled, the same enigmatic smile that had disturbed him before. Now its meaning was clear. "Ironic, isn't it? You fired me for studying calculus, never realizing I'd already mastered the field that exposed your empire." Richard collapsed into his chair, crushed under the weight of his arrogance. "Why?" he whispered. "Because men like you build empires by trampling families like mine. Because you think you're untouchable." She leaned forward, icy calm. "But mostly because you judged me by skin and status. That was your fatal mistake." His phone rang, his lawyer. "Richard, the IRS is confiscating everything. Surrender before they issue an arrest warrant." Tanya watched the color drain from his face. He had lost everything, fortune, reputation, freedom. All because of the maid he had despised. "There's one last thing, Mr. Grant," she said at the door. "My family will never struggle again. The reward ensures my mother can retire, my sisters can finish college, and I can finally work in the career I earned." Richard's voice cracked. You planned all this? No. I prepared. You, and your arrogance, gave me the chance to destroy your empire of lies. 6 months later, Richard sat in a federal prison cell, his orange jumpsuit mocking the $3,000 suits he once flaunted. 15 years for racketeering, laundering, corruption. His empire dismantled. The man who sneered at a maid was now treated as lowly as he once treated her. Meanwhile, Tanya began her first day as senior analyst at the city's top consulting firm. Her panoramic office stood 3 floors above where Richard once struck his crooked deals. Excellent work, Tanya, said Dr. Martinez. Your reports saved us from a scheme like Grant's. But Tanya's greatest joy was at home. Barbara retired happily to her garden. Jasmine pursued medical school on a scholarship Tanya secured. Tricia studied law, inspired by her sister's triumph. Tanny, look at this, Jasmine said, holding a newspaper. Richard was being transferred to maximum security after a prison fight. The man who humiliated you isn't doing well. Tanya glanced at the photo, without satisfaction or pity. ChatGPT said, he brought this on himself, Jazz. I just documented it. The true transformation wasn't only in Tanya's life, but in the lives she inspired. Marcus Taylor won an investigative journalism award for his exposé on corporate corruption, later founding an organization to help inner-city youth report injustices in business. At her alma mater, Tanya spoke to 500 economics students. When that man told me people like me had a place in society, he was right, she said, drawing laughter. Our place is wherever competence and determination take us, not where prejudice tries to confine us. A student asked, how did you stay calm during those 6 months? Because I learned anger without strategy is just noise, Tanya replied. But anger with planning becomes justice. Meanwhile, Richard watched her interview on the prison television, finally understanding his arrogance. The woman he called incompetent was now consulting for multinational companies, addressing packed audiences, and leading the fight against corruption. His old partners, those who once laughed about the insolent Maid, now faced their own investigations from Tanya's evidence. Even the elite golf club where they mocked workers had lost half its members in scandal. Every person we underestimate carries potential we can't see, Tanya said in another interview. Richard Grant believed my social status defined my intelligence. That arrogance cost him his freedom and his fortune. Her story spread beyond one downfall. Corporations began reviewing hiring practices. Universities launched inclusion programs. And countless young people from struggling neighborhoods saw Tanya as proof that where you come from doesn't define where you'll go. Richard tried to destroy her, but in the end he destroyed himself. Tanya discovered that true revenge isn't striking back. It's achieving the kind of success your enemies could never imagine. If this story of transformation and justice resonated with you, subscribe to the channel for more stories that prove intelligence and determination always triumph over arrogance and prejudice, no matter how impossible victory may seem at first.